about your trip to the United States. We're at your house now, and between Saturday and today, you were in the hospital, and you had some surgery, or I guess it's not surgery, some procedures taken to take care of the problems you've been having. Are you feeling okay?
Yes, so far I do.
Oh, that's really good. Uh, when you came to the United States, Dad, you know, you mentioned about having gotten off the train with your Aunt Irene, and fortunately Rosie was there, who you knew as a child. Do you remember who was there at the station to meet you?
Well, I couldn't properly tell you because outside of the cousins that I knew from home, the rest of them were all strangers to me. Could have been my uncle, my aunt over there, other relatives. I did not know.
Do you remember when you came home? What do you remember about the apartment that your parents were living in?
Well, the only thing I remember about it, there was 3, 4 bedrooms, and of course my 2 sisters that were at home, and I slept with one of the boys, Heshkovich, which later married into the family, and that's about all. I started to school the following day, or maybe 2 days later, and I was asked a lot of questions, and whatever I could answer I did, whatever I couldn't answer I just didn't answer. And I waited for them to talk to me first, and then I talked to them.
You said you felt somewhat awkward about calling your folks mom and dad.
That's right, I sure did. I was used to that. I was always used to call Bobby and Zadie, my grandparents, and somehow or other, the words just couldn't come out. I couldn't express my feelings, like say, Mom, I want this, or Dad, I want this. I wait for them to talk to me. As soon as they talk to me what I wanted, I used to tell them. The only one I could converse easily was my sisters, because Bernice couldn't talk about it. She was still a baby, you know. But I loved her and I hugged her. And Fran, she was called Molly that time. She was 6 or 7 years old about then, about 7 years old. And she was going to school. As a matter of fact, I started to go to school with her, the same grade.
Now, the apartment that you were in, you said it was 3, 4 bedrooms. Was that on a walk-up, or what type of building was it?
It was a walk-up, a 3-story building, walk-up, old-fashioned type of building like they had in the 1920s.
And your apartment was on the 3rd floor?
On the 3rd floor.
At the time, your folks were taking boarders into the apartment. Do you
It was
remember
all on the 3rd floor.
do you remember how many people were living in your apartment at the time you moved in?
Well, offhand, I'd be just guessing.
Well, that's what we like, the best of your recollection. It's my understanding in those days when people came from the old countries that there were like boarding house setups and setups where people would be having places to be taken care of. And I just wondered if that was the way it was, or how people came through, how long they stayed there, what type of environment a boarding house was, how it felt, whether everybody ate together, how things did. What was life like back in 1920, 1921 when you, actually was 21 when you came to the United States?
That's right.
What it was like
Life
living
was
in that
way.
boarding facility?
They went to work early in the morning. Whether they had breakfast at home or not, I don't know. I don't remember. I do remember for some of them, mother packed lunches to take along. Now, for others, they ate lunch at whatever they worked at. The only one that I recall good is Hershey Heskowitz. Because that's the one I slept with. And that was my aunt, of course. She had a room over there, the one who brought me over.
That was Irene.
Irene, yes. And after a while she moved over to Uncle Max, the brother. She also had another brother, Shamu. And Shamu was the one who was in the domestic help business. He's the one who placed these women in different homes for cooks and maids and so forth. That was his line, Uncle Shamu's line. And he's the one who I presume got the first job for Aunt Irene with very well-to-do family, where she done the cooking and cleaning.
Now, your mother at the time had a restaurant on the second floor in this building?
No, that was always all on the same floor. After a while, we moved from the third floor to the second floor. That was available at that time. We moved on to the second floor because we needed bigger space to eat. Because the way it was arranged upstairs, they had a living room and a dining room, and the rest was kitchen and bedrooms. The living room wasn't too big, and neither was the dining room too big, because there was 3 or 4 bedrooms on the side. When you moved to the second floor, one of the 2 bedrooms was converted to a restaurant where they ate, because the only one that lived with us at that time was Heskowitz. The rest of them moved out. Either they got married, they had their own homes. Like when I came out here, Uncle Dave was married, Uncle Leighton was married, and Rosie Rosenthal was married, and they all used to live at Morris. And they all got married and got into their own homes.
So when your mother started cooking for people on the second floor, do you remember what the arrangements were? Did people come and pay for meals, or?
Oh yes, they paid for meals, because everyone, of course, they knew from the wherever factory or wherever place they worked, you know. They must have talked about it. So when they came home, they brought somebody over to eat. And once they ate one, she had a good reputation of being a very good cook. And they were very happy to come and just eat there. So she built up a nice business. The business worked up to such a degree where as soon as the store downstairs got vacant, we took the store downstairs. There was another apartment in the back of the store where we lived. Then we didn't need no boarders.
So eventually, cooking for boarders became the restaurant business that your parents had.
That's exactly.
Do you remember how much rent was for the apartment? Do you have any recollection what things cost in those days?
That was never discussed in front of me.
Do you remember anything about what the people paid for meals?
I have no idea. After all, you have to remember, I was only 12, 13 years old. Couldn't speak the language outside of Yiddish and Hungarian. And I was busy with my sisters. Well, they didn't discuss business in front of me. What they were paying, I have no slightest idea. What arrangements they made, whether they paid by the week, or by the day, or by the month, I have no idea whatsoever.
You said you started in school a couple days later. Do you remember the name of the school you went to?
Yes, Columbus School.
And I think you mentioned earlier that you sort of went to school with Fran for the first week.
That was Columbus.
And
That was a primary grade where we started on the kindergarten, first class, up till the 6th grade.
you remember what what you were learning at Columbus School? Did they have any special programs to teach you English?
Well, I wouldn't know if it was a program or not. I know that I had the same book as my sister had, and she only kept me there for a week or two. That's about it, a week. As soon as I got to be able to pick the alphabet A, B, C, D, E, and F, G, and so forth, I was right away transferred to another room.
And do you remember, could you tell me about the things that you were taught in your school for the first few months and what happened?
Well, don't forget it was in April when I came here. In May, June. June was the end of the semester, at the end of the school. So I went to summer school. In the summer school, I went to Van Humboldt School. That was a different neighborhood. There where I met Teresa's sisters and family and so forth. That's where I met quite a few of my friends that are still my friends.
Okay, do you remember what the subjects you learned in the Columbus School and the Von Humboldt School? How did they try to teach you English? How did they try to teach you to be an American?
Well, they spoke to me. Don't forget, the teacher only spoke in English. In the class, only English was spoken. And the only one who was there to explain it to me in Yiddish was Molly. That's Fran. She's the one who translated to me. Or there was other Jewish children who spoke Yiddish. They would talk to me, and I caught on pretty fast.
So how long did it take you to learn English before you felt comfortable in talking?
Well, by the time I went to Van Humboldt School, I spoke the language in 2 months' time. Enough to get by with, anyway.
How long did you stay in school, Dad?
I graduated high school.
Well, how long did you, how many years? You were 13, you just had your bar mitzvah when you came to the United States. How many years did you stay in school in order to graduate high school?
When I graduated high school, I was 17 years old.
So you were in school for almost
4 years.
4 years. Remember what school you went to after Von Humboldt?
After Van Humboldt, Thule.
That was a high school?
That was a high school.
And you remember what neighborhood it was in? How did you get there?
I walked.
Was it a walking distance?
It's all walking distance.
And what area of Chicago was that?
It was called Northwest Side, Humboldt Park District. These are all in the Humboldt Park District. If you ever read some of Herb Rinn's post, he was born and reared in that part of the district, Humboldt Division Park, Division Street. There was California Avenue, Kedzie Avenue, North Avenue, Halsted Street, and a lot of those streets over there. It was predominantly Jewish and Polish neighborhood.
Mostly immigrants.
Mostly immigrants, naturally, immigrants.
Okay. What type of Hebrew education did you have at this time?
None.
You didn't have any special Hebrew school?
No, none whatsoever. The only Hebrew education I had was what I brought from me from my grandfather from Europe.
And you said that you had your bar mitzvah a couple weeks after you came?
After I got here, yes.
And You were telling us a little bit about your bar mitzvah. Do you remember how the topic came up between you and your father?
I wouldn't.
Did he say...
What kind of topic would you...
Well, did you say, you know, it's time for your bar mitzvah?
Well, I knew it was, he didn't have to tell me that. I knew it was time. And we went to the temple. We made arrangement on Saturday. And I was called when I was given a aliyah. And I was bar mitzvah there and then in the temple. Whether they had any kind of a pastime after that, whether they had drinks or cakes or something, I wouldn't remember it. If they would, it probably would have been at the restaurant. But there was no facilities at the temple to do that. It was a little small temple.
Did your family often go to temple? Was your family religious?
Oh, yes.
How often did your father go to shul?
Well, mostly on holidays. Sometimes they could go on a Saturday, but my father was not that religious. Because don't forget, as a restaurant, you had to be open Friday and Saturday. Although Mother wasn't called a kosher restaurant, kosher style restaurant, where they were open 7 days a week. She bought kosher meats, kosher food, so forth. But it wasn't strictly kosher restaurant.
I assume they did serve pork chops, though.
That's right.
Remember how the Shabbos was celebrated in the home? Was there anything special done for Shabbos?
Yes. I remember Mother lighting the candles.
You remember the prayers or songs that she used to
And
sing?
the prayers, no songs, there were no songs, no songs. Once in a while, Dad didn't have anything to do with it, but Uncle Dave, when he came over for a Friday night supper with his family, with his Tante Matilda, and at that time, I don't remember whether he had any children or not, he would already conduct a Friday night service. They would sing Zmiris, they would say a bracha, benchen, and so forth. That's about it.
Did you work while you were going through school?
Yes, I did. First job I got was a delivery boy for a dress shop. I happened to, or my dad or uncle, one of them happened to know that he made dresses, but it was exclusive for certain people only, I don't know. But I did get a pass either on the trolley, which was a streetcar, or on the train, that I had to deliver a certain dress to a certain place at this address. I do remember that. That was the first job I got as a delivery boy.
That was right after you came to the United States?
No, that was after I was about 15, 16 years old. I was still going to school.
You didn't have any jobs outside of the home until then? You remember how much you got paid for that job?
I don't
The best of your recollection, guess. What did they give you, a quarter a week, $1 a week?
I wouldn't have been able to guess it.
Now, how long did you have that job?
Not long, maybe a month or 2 or 3. Then I got a job at Uncle Dave happened to work for a certain corset company, and he needed somebody to deliver certain corsets to certain people. Also delivery job. So I worked for him and at a corset shop. And after that I got a job at summertime it was, although I went to school, but I still got a job at Montgomery Ward's stock boy after school.
Do you have any recollection of what you were being paid at any of these jobs?
No, I don't remember.
What did it cost to ride the trolley in those days?
Oh, I don't know. Whether it was 2 cents or a nickel, I couldn't tell you. I
Well,
just couldn't tell you.
Now, you mentioned that when you were in school, you made friends that some of whom you still have today. Do you remember any of those people that are still friends of yours today, or that perhaps we would know, I would know?
Well, the only one that you know passed away was Uncle Hank.
That's Henry Kennard.
Henry Kennard. And of course, Jimmy Roth, who's passed away.
That's Teresa's first husband.
His husband.
And he's the father of Lenny and Jay.
Yeah, so then of course, the friend Teresa, her sisters, we were all friends at that time.
That is Margaret.
Margaret
Anne.
and
You went to school with Frida.
Frida, I went to school with Frida, and Max, the brother, I knew the brother. Then I knew, of course, what else did I know? Maury Halfman, his cousin Max, a couple of it's all in Chicago. And a lot of them, of course, passed away, but some are still alive.
Well, let's take a couple-minute break now, Dad. Dad, do you remember anything special that you liked about school? Anything that you, any subjects you liked, anything that you got any particular pleasure from, or any activity, school activities that you had that you really enjoyed?
Well, as far as athletic activities is concerned, I was very much good at it. One of the reasons was I was working, too active to go to school and work. Then we did belong to a club. We used to form, in those days we used to form clubs. We used to meet in the basement. We used to decorate the basement with a lot of old furniture and stuff. And the boys used to have a meeting over there. And the meeting used to be for outings, to go out on picnics, or go out together on baseball games. We used to go together.
You liked history, you told me.
Huh?
You were a professor of history. You liked history in school.
Yes, and
Yeah,
one of the
professor.
professors at school was a history teacher, and I used to enjoy listening to him. He had special class on Sundays, but I used to go to listen to him. But otherwise, we used to go to baseball games. I remember 2 of us had passes, being that I was a delivery boy, and I had to use the streetcar elevator. And in those days, you had to pay a nickel or a dime for the elevator, but I had a weekly pass. All I did is take the pass out and put it down, pretending to put it in my pocket, and handed the pass to the other kids. All of us kids went in on the same pass.
So that's,
And all of us kids went in and say, we were close next together, we all got in on the same pass. We used to go on the elevator to the ballpark.
oh, you went to the ball games?
Yes.
Which ball games did you go to?
Cups.
So you're a Cub fan?
That's right.
Well, what do you remember about the baseball games?
Baseball game? Well, Stan Hack was my favorite player. And he was a pitcher, I believe. And one particular instance that I do remember is, and the Cubs were winning 9-1. It was the 9th inning, and we all had a bet, either 50 cents or whatever it was at that time, or $1. And figured it was 9-1, the last of the 9th inning, so we all left. So I collected the money and all went into Treason for an ice cream. You know, after all, we went in there, we bought a nickel or whatever it was, and we had a soda or Sunday, and I spent all my winnings for that Treason on the ice cream. while they were eating ice cream, the night inning was going on, and we came out. The following day, we found out that the Cubs lost 10-1,
Or 10-9?
or 10-9 rather. Oh, after that, they were off the list. No more bets on the Cubs.
You mentioned that your kids formed a club.
Yes.
You remember what type of club it was? Did it have any special name, function, purpose? Was it just a kids club? Was it social?
It was mostly for boys, social clubs, you know. Once in a while, we tried to get a girl to join, for one purpose only.
Oh, it's mean you had lust in your heart.
Lust in our hearts, yes. And we used to, of course, the Jewish girls wouldn't even consider joining us. We used to have a chicks to come in and join us. And we used to have a few parties like that. Then we used to have a Limburger cheese party where one of the fellows would buy the Limburger and the real dark pumpernickel bread. And that time we didn't have, it was prohibition, of course. And we drank some tea or whatever it was. Well, that was the kind of party it had. It stunk like hell with the Limburger cheese and the crackers and the bread and so forth. We had that kind of parties. Then we played cards.
That was a normal teenage activity.
Normal teenage activity. Well, besides the club where we used to meet 2 or 3 times a week. And then, of course, I worked. Saturdays and Sundays, if I didn't work, we went out to the park, went to the ball game. Oh, we had our own game. We also played soccer among our teams. And then we used to go out with dates. And after I turned 17, my Uncle Dave got interested to buy a market in Gary, Indiana. At that time, it was a grocery store and meat store, fruit store, like similar to one of these shopping centers that we have.
A 7-Eleven store or something like
that? Like 7-Eleven or mostly be 7-Eleven. I wouldn't consider it as a supermarket because everything was in bulk. If you want the flour, rice, sugar, coffee, so forth, we all got it in bulk and we poured it and waited. The only kind of canned goods we used to have at that time was fruit. Peaches started to come in, a few fancy goods, fruit, and vegetables started to come in. But otherwise, when it came to even butter, was from a hunk, lard, scoop butter, hand, meat was weighed, cut to order. And as a matter of fact, a lot of it, sometimes we came to slaughter a small animal, we slaughtered a small animal. We used to sell live chickens, live ducks, live geese. We had to slaughter them and dress them for them.
So that was after you graduated high school?
After I graduated high school. I did go 6 months to Lewis Institute to pre-legal law, but I flunked out badly. So I decided that was the end of my school days.
Well, what was this institute?
It was mainly, it was to see whether you're fit to become a student or not. Some took it for medical, some took it for law, some took it for different courses, wherever you had intentions of being interested. They even had a mechanic, auto mechanic, that first started to come out, you know, how to learn the combustion motors and so forth. Well, I chose to go to law school, pre-law. after the first 3 months, after my test, I flunked out, and after that I had a call from Uncle Dave. I'd move over to Gary. He'd teach me to become a butcher and grocery store and so forth, and that's exactly what I did. I moved over to Gary.
While you were in school, you said that you had your club and you had socials and dates. Do you remember your girlfriends when you were a young man?
Oh, yes.
Well, I know with Mother sitting here, I think after 50 years you should be secure.
He can say it.
What?
Is it all right, Mother, for him to talk about
Yes,
his childhood
yes,
dates?
Yes, it is.
Yes, I had quite a few girlfriends.
I knew them. I met them.
I know. We used to go on picnics. We always had school.